Media consultant. He's also the author of Everything Trump Touches Dies. He joins us from Tallahassee in Florida. So despite the president attacking Twitter, Jack Dorsey did take the White House meeting. Presumably, you can't really say no when the president summons you.
Sure. It really is hard to say no to an invitation to sit in the Oval Office with the President of the United States. And obviously, Twitter has been very fearful, as all the social media platforms are right now, that they could be subjected to regulation. And this is a White House that has been known to do executive order regulation. So I think out of an abundance of caution, Mr. Dorsey and the rest of the Twitter executives that came in today took the meeting.
Well, Trump keeps insisting that Twitter is biased against him. Talk us through why he might think that.
Well, the president has an imaginary bias. He claims Twitter has a bias against him because he believes that he should have more followers than the 50 million or so he has right now. Twitter periodically eliminates tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of fake bot accounts all the time. And a really large percentage of Donald Trump's followers are fake accounts. They're part of botnets that are used to promote, propaganda, whether it's from advertising or political groups here in the U.S. or the Russians or whomever. The number of bots that follow Donald Trump and seek to leverage off of Donald Trump's Twitter feed is enormous. And so Twitter periodically purges them. And so Trump believes, though, that is, a political statement of bias against him. And in fact, it's just keeping their sort of a sanitation mechanism for their social network.
Well, despite his complaints of bias, many would argue that Twitter helped him to win the election and to continue now to connect with his base.
Sure. I think it's one of Donald Trump's most powerful assets. It's a direct line to his base. There are a lot of folks who are on Twitter, who follow Donald Trump and nobody else. That's their channel that he's established. It's an incredibly powerful channel. It does things in terms of keeping his base along one set of political goals that he sets for them and one set of messages he drives for them. Very much, there's almost no parallel to it. I mean, Barack Obama has more followers on Twitter by he has about 100 million followers, but he doesn't use his account to drive a political movement at this point. And Trump certainly does. And it has definitely been an aspect of his communications mechanism that has been very powerful and hard to push back against by folks who oppose him either on the Republican side or the Democratic side.
So with these complaints of bias and then this meeting today, is Trump trying to be strategic here, or is it more about, as you suggested earlier, really about his displeasure about his number of followers being less than those of others?
I think there's also the factor he's trying to work the referees. He's trying to say that Twitter, should allow the people that are some of his vociferous supporters to stay on. I think he's also unhappy that they've purged a lot of these people who are very strong, like alt-right supporters of Trump. They've gotten rid of a lot of those folks. And I think he's unhappy with losing any support base that is what he views as his primary channel. And I do think that, again, he's working the referees a bit here. He's trying to make sure that Twitter doesn't engage in behavior he doesn't want, which is to say, treats his account in ways that an ordinary person tweeted things like the enemies of the press and things like that would probably run into some trouble. But Donald Trump has a sort of protected lane in the Twitter space.
Rick Wilson, a Republican strategist and media consultant. Thanks for joining us on Al Jazeera. Well, Egypt